Very happy to be here with inside of Pizza Man Pub, 50th Week Street in New York here in our community, and very excited for the first time ever to welcome John Flannery here to the broadcast on site, on location. You've been on the show before. We spent some time together. Happy to have you here in person, and it's the first time in 27 years since we've had our Syracuse offensive lineman, John Flannery, who's won a Super Bowl with the St. Louis Rams back in 1999 back. So welcome home.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And looking forward to the weekend, sharing some time with my kids. It should be a great weekend.
And you got the kids here. You said the last time you were here, your wife was pregnant with your daughter, correct?
Absolutely. And 27 years later, here we are back again. We left Texas this morning at about, we had a 5 a.m. flight. It was 98 degrees, 100% humidity. So loved walking into 68 degrees and 20% humidity. It was quite enjoyable.
Yeah, you know, and to be in this situation back in Syracuse, what's the first, when you step off the plane, what was the first memory that maybe hit you about Syracuse?
Well, the kids asked me, where's the rental car place and where's baggage claim? I said, I don't know. I said, we always took charters right out to the airplane on the runway. We got on, and then the charters came back, and they picked us back up, and they took us to the field house. I said, I don't know where anything is.
Yeah. So now you got, I mean, and the airport's changed a little bit, too. There's some additions to the airport, a lot of more airlines now. So when you come down and you're not in that charter world, how did you handle coming in this morning?
Well, I mean, it took a while. I mean, first of all, I don't even think the last time I was here, I don't even think Southwest Airlines flew into Syracuse. So
Southwest, Breeze, Frontier, bunch of new ones now.
Oh yeah. So I mean, when I found out Southwest, you know, we jumped on a Southwest flight out of Hobby Airport in Houston this morning, landed in Baltimore, and then an hour later we were here in Syracuse. So it made it a lot easier to get from Houston, Texas to Syracuse than it has been in the past.
You were drafted by the Houston Oilers. So bring me back to that moment, and you know you're still in Houston. So what brought you back to Houston after playing for the Oilers?
Well, I met my wife in Houston. We were set up on a blind date during my rookie season. We dated for about 6 months. Got engaged 6 months later, got married the second off season. We've been married now. This May will be 30 years. Have 3 wonderful kids. My daughter's here with me. She's 27. My oldest son is with me. He's 25. And my youngest decided he wanted to go to Maryland. He did not want to stay in Texas to go to college. So his 2 big choices were Maryland and Syracuse. And I said, you know, even back in the day when we were playing, I said the only poor people at Syracuse were the athletes because we were on scholarship. That was the only way we were able to afford to go there. So I said, nothing has changed. I said, you better stick with Maryland, buddy.
Yeah. I mean, having him up in the Northeast, got to be something special. You tried to get him out here, and he wanted to go to class.
He wanted to go to class, so we had a layover today. In Baltimore, which is 45 minutes from Maryland's campus. That's where we flew into last weekend when we took him back to school.
Yeah.
And we said, hey, meet us at the airport. Take an Uber to the airport. It's an hour flight to Syracuse. We'll have a great weekend. We're flying back home Sunday, so you'll have all Monday, which is a holiday.
Yeah.
And he said, it's the first week of class. I said, but it's syllabus week, so you don't need. He said, I'm not missing class on Thursday in the first week of class. So
right.
He's wired a little bit differently than the other children.
Okay. So they would miss their class. That's all right.
Oh well, they're missing their jobs. They took their paid time off to come with their dad.
Very good. And I did ask you about this off the air, but your son has a very distinct mustache. Can we get into the world of this?
Well, I try to make him shave it before.
You gotta talk about it. It's right there for you. It's first thing you see.
I don't know if I'm allowed to say it, but I said, would you please get rid of the porn star mustache?
Okay.
And now he's covering up. He's self-conscious. But, I mean, he's a good boy. He graduated, tried to play some college football, tried to walk on at University of Nevada. Coaching changes, regime changes. He came back home, graduated from Sam Houston State back in Houston. Yeah. And then he decided he was going to join the Marine Corps. So he just got back from, he's a reservist, and he just got back from his 2-week duty in 29 Palms. So he spent 2 weeks in the desert.
Oh, wow.
And he decided he was going to grow the mustache.
All right. Well, I mean, obviously, thanks more than anything to his service.
Yeah.
What does it mean to you to be the father of a Marine?
It means I don't mess with them anymore.
Okay.
Okay.
He knows certain tricks of the trade, I'm sure.
You know, it's funny because we're still swimming in Houston because it's 98 degrees, like I said.
Yeah.
And last weekend, my lovely daughter is married for a year and a half now, and on the weekends we usually spend time at our house, and we cook out and we swim in the pool and whatnot. And my daughter's husband Joe decided, he played college football at Sam Houston. He was quite the punter himself.
Yeah.
He decided he was going to try and mess with Colin.
Okay.
And
I like how she started to videotape as soon as you said this.
Well, Marines are wired a little differently. And Marines play to win. Even if you're joking, they block, and was holding him under the water until he tapped out. So, he's too strong for me now and too crafty. So I mean, I'm not going to mess with him anymore. But we have a good time. We have a good time on the weekends.
Do we think Joe is done now messing with Colin? Is
Probably. I mean, hopefully Joe learned his lesson, but you never know.
Yeah, I would think that you gotta kind of just call it, right? And holding him underwater until he tapped out.
Okay, yes.
So almost drowning. So
close to it.
All right, fair enough. So being a father of 3, what has it taught you most about yourself?
Ooh, wow. Well, quite honestly, it's taught me priorities, right? And last time we talked, when I was laying in my living room in Houston, and it all goes back to what I was telling you about when we were talking about Coach Mack, right?
Yeah.
Coach Mack, I told you back in January, Coach Mack wasn't grooming college football players. He wasn't grooming players for the NFL. He was grooming men for life, okay? How to be good husbands, good fathers, and I still carry a lot of that with me today. And quite honestly, I haven't been back in 27 years, and a lot of the reasons I haven't been back in 27 years is because my priorities have changed. Yeah. So, I finished my NFL career, and luckily I was able to finish my career before these two here were of school age, because the last thing I want to do, I played with a lot of guys where their kids would spend half of the school year in the city they were playing and then half in their hometown. Yeah. So luckily I was able to finish my career, get my Super Bowl ring. We moved back to Houston, Texas, and that's where all 3 of my kids went to grade school, junior high, and they all graduated from the same high school. But I had my time, right? The time was about them, and I was not going to be an absentee father. That's why I didn't get into coaching. That's why I'm not coming up for golf tournaments and stuff like that, right? Because I wanted to spend time coaching youth football, youth baseball, and now that they're out and on their own, I did my part, and then with the youngest one, a sophomore at Maryland, I'm going to start looking to enjoy myself a little bit more and become more about me instead of priorities are going to change again.
Yeah. So what are you looking forward to now? Now that you weren't an absentee father, you were there you watched them grow up, and they all got to go to the same high school and graduate from there. So what's on the horizon for John Flannery now?
I don't know.
You gonna start coaching? Can we get you into coaching?
No. I think
There might be a vacancy up here soon. So
I think I'm long past my coaching days. I think right now I'm you know. Oh, good God! Oh, yeah, you know that. I guess I got to look forward to that, right?
Being a grandfather, yeah.
Being a grandfather. I mean, hopefully, like I said, my daughter's married for over a year now, but she is now a practicing attorney. So hope she becomes attorney a little bit. And actually, the Marine with the porn stash just got engaged. Just got engaged about a month ago. So.
Yeah. Was this with a girl from one of the videos or no? We're just kidding. We're just kidding. I have to go off of the porn stash. You threw it out there for me. I got to take it.
I know. Yeah, so...
I'm not far off, your daughter said.
I mean, okay. Yeah, well, they have this love-hate relationship. That's... Okay. I don't know what's going to be what's going to be worse this weekend, if they're going to be the end of me or I'm going to be the end of them.
And... have they always had the playful banter back and forth?
Absolutely. So back, I'll go back to when they were young. They were, I don't know, 6, 7.
Okay.
And they decided one day, Colin fell asleep and Brennan cut his hair. And then he decided he was going to pay her back.
Yeah.
And they decided they were going to cut each other's hair. And they came walking downstairs, and they looked like two dogs with the mange. I mean, there was clumps missing. And the thing that was fantastic about it is they were using those kindergarten scissors that would barely cut hot butter.
Yeah.
And I will never forget, it's probably one of the most upset I've seen a wife with the kids, not me, but with the kids, because they did this a week before Easter when she was scheduling Easter pictures.
Yeah.
So needless to say, that pictures for Easter that year, both of them had hats on.
That's awesome. So who did the better haircut job, Colin or Brennan?
I don't know. They both were pretty bad.
But your daughter got it first. You got first dibs at
Yes,
Colin?
oh yeah, she did. Yeah, he had to have his head shaved because it was so bad.
Okay.
He decided he was going to trim her bangs, and it was like on an angle.
That's when you got to put the bowl on. And
Yeah,
then you
exactly.
Cut across
Exactly.
That way. So your youngest, does he have to deal with any of this razzing, or have they exhausted the energy on each other?
Well, since he's a little younger and a little more removed, he's not like me, and he's not like those two. He marches to the beat of his own drum, and he's unique.
Okay.
He's unique. I mean, if you wouldn't see him, and he's as tall as Colin, he's 6'5", 6'6", so both of them are taller than their dad. Yeah. And you talk to him, if you talk to him, you would say, there ain't no way in hell that's your kid.
Yeah.
But then if you looked at him, you say, oh yeah, that's your kid. Right?
Yeah.
So he's a different bird.
Your wife, with these three and you, how would you say your wife would describe the household of you and the kids? And now this is going back on video, so
okay,
we got to shout your wife out. So.
It is organized chaos.
Yeah, controlled chaos is what I call it. Yeah, I like
there
that.
you go.
Okay, those are the two words you would use.
Probably. I mean, sainthood.
Sainthood. Okay.
Going right to heaven. Right to heaven.
Straight to heaven. No
Straight
pay.
to heaven.
All right. Fair enough.
Don't even have to wait at the pearly gates. Right in. Come on in.
Favorite 3 things about your wife?
Oh man!
I had to
keep. We were going to play these type of games.
I had to keep the video on, so.
She's been through a lot of stuff. I mean,
Okay.
through my NFL career, I mean, loving, caring, compassionate. I mean, that's to give you a story which will exemplify all three. So I'm in my fifth year of the NFL. I have blown out my left knee for the second time. We are not going to have the surgery done in Houston, but we're going to go to Manhattan to go to the hospital for special surgery. She is, so I've already had the middle third of my left patella tendon cut out and put in my left knee. This time they're going to take out the right third of my patella tendon, put it in my left knee. So here I am, a 300-pound NFL offensive lineman, with her toting a 6-week-old newborn baby girl in Brennan. And we're in New York City. I'm incapacitated with braces from my groins to my ankles on both legs, and she's pushing me in a wheelchair trying to hold a baby at the same time. She's dealt with a lot of stuff. I mean, another reconstruction, some elbow surgeries, and plus birthing these three all three of them were huge. All three of them were huge. All three of them were 23 and a half inches long. She was 9'11". Colin was 11 pounds 1 ounce. And then the youngest was like a little over 9 pounds. We were in the hospital in Houston, and there was a race between my wife and I and another couple, but we knew the other couple were having twins, and we were in 2 different birthing rooms right next to each other. The twins combined didn't weigh as much as Colin. People were coming by saying, "We want to see the 11-pounder." I said, "That's my son. That's not a bass, right? We're not gonna hold him up by the lip."
It's like trying to find the right turkey for Thanksgiving or something like that.
Exactly.
That's awesome. So, having the family that you have, before we jump into the world of football, as on Wake Up Calls.
Oh, we're going to talk about football?
We are going to talk about football. This is where sports meets life. But for you, as a dad and as a husband, to someone in my world where I am not either right now, what would you say? What's your advice?
Man, we're asking some deep questions.
I got to go deep before we jump into Syracuse. You got your family here, so we gotta go deep before we go to the Louisville game.
Okay, so I don't know. When the time is right, you will know.
There you go.
Know. That's the we, like I said, we met on a blind date after my rookie season. We've been together 30 years. We've been together 32 years. Been married 30. And have 3 wonderful kids, and we're still together.
John Flannery here with us, Syracuse offensive lineman, went into the NFL drafted by Houston, and then also got to spend some time with the Dallas Cowboys and won a Super Bowl with the St. Louis Rams back in 1999. So you decided to come back after 27 years. You come back the weekend that is a little bit of history for Syracuse. They've spent the last 5 years on the road in their season opener. So it's the first time in 6 years that they will be home to open the season. And they played Louisville since 2005 every year except for 2013 when Syracuse joined the ACC and Louisville did in 2014. They've been Big East rivals. They've been ACC rivals. And Louisville has a 13-7 lead in the head-to-head contest as the 21st matchup. And Syracuse, of the 7 they've won, 4 of them have been at home in the Dome, so more than half. So with that little background to it, what are your thoughts about Syracuse starting off the season at home and against an ACC opponent?
Sounds like they're ripe for the picking.
Yeah, it's true.
I mean, we'll see. I mean, week 1, who knows what happens, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's we didn't know what was going to happen, but sound cliche and take a Macism, take them one time. To go undefeated, you got to win the first one, right?
Yeah, and they have 5 of their first 6 at home. The only road game is in week 2 at UConn, who is now an independent team with a new coach in Jim Mora Jr. But UConn and UMass have been the teams that people schedule to get a win because of kind of where the state things are right now. Syracuse has Louisville at home, at UConn, and then they have home games coming up here against Purdue, against Wagner, against Virginia. So, you know, a nice kind of road here. We'll see Notre Dame in the Dome for the first time in forever, and Syracuse will have Florida State toward the end of the season. So
yeah, we'll see what they do.
Yeah, it's Notre Dame is going to get tested for sure. So in the college football world, you and I were talking about it off the air. NFL, college football, you were saying you lean more toward watching the college game right now.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Saturdays, I will watch from 9 a.m. game day kickoff until, I mean, if I could stay awake, I'll even catch the Mountain West game that doesn't kick off till 10, 11 o'clock. Normally, I don't make the end of those games, but there's you know, even with everything that's going on in college football today, you know, NIL and likeness images and this, that, and the other thing, it's still a great product to watch on TV, the pageantry and whatnot. Now, is it the same today that it was when Roger and I played? Probably not, but it's still better than watching the NFL on Sundays.
Why?
Because money's the root of all evil, Dan, right? And that's what irritates me a little bit about college football. Money is starting to creep into that. And yeah, there was a lot of money at stake when we were playing, but you know, you had to perform first and then get the bowl game and then get the bowl money and then you put up your new buildings, right? Now the money's just coming, you know, TV contracts and exclusive deals and this, that, and the other thing. You know, and again, you even mentioned it yourself. These teams that are playing, watch, I'll start another fight in the family, right? So my daughter, undergrad from Texas A&M. My son graduated from Sam Houston.
Yeah.
A&M's going to open up number 6 team in the country next week, or tomorrow, or Saturday, against Sam Houston State, a 1AA school, right? The 1AA schools they're actually making a ton of money to go get their heads beat in.
Yeah.
So, you know, you can't blame them. You can't blame them, but everything is becoming about money. I mean, and that will eventually ruin the college game as well.
Well, and that's the thing with name, image, and likeness. The NCAA saying that they're a non-for-profit organization, I think, is laughable. And the amount of money that they make, and then at the top, that Mark Emmert said, I have no control over college football. He said that at the beginning of the pandemic, yet he's taken home $3 million in a season, and a couple other people with him taking $1 million, a few under them in the NCAA taking home $500,000. If you have no control over it, to me, he said, I can't control who plays from conference to the actual school or institution. And then I would say, well, then if you can't control the school, you can't control the conference, and you can't control the players and the coaches, if I got suspended, I would still play. If you have no control over Syracuse, you have no control over me. So living in the world we live in with the NCAA, they're in a transformational process, a new constitution. The president is stepping down. He already said college football is out on its own by itself, and they have no control over it. Where are we heading in college football if it's its own entity, but it calls itself NCAA football?
Probably headed to farm clubs for the NFL. You're looking at AA, AAA farm clubs, just like Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about it. I go back to again. I always go back to my day, and you know, this NIL stuff. It has to tear a locker room apart, right? Okay, so NIL is going to come in. You know, I go back to the personalities that were on our teams, and I'll be quite honest with you. We went to 4 bowl games, 3-0-1. okay? We were 2-0-1 against the daunted SEC that Alabama wasn't even a thought in back in those days, right? It was LSU, Georgia, Auburn. We played all three of them. We went 2-0-1, okay? So what happens to our teams if they come in and say, this guy's going to get $1 million, this guy's going to get $500,000, and this guy's going to get this, and the other 80 of you are not getting anything? How cohesive do you think the team is going to be? I'm just going off of the personalities that I shared the locker room with. I can't imagine what's going on today, but I imagine the same thing has to be going on today. Why is this guy getting the money and I'm not?
Yeah. Well, and I sat on this stage with Cody Roscoe as a defensive end on Syracuse that had just finished his time up, and I talked to him about NIL, and I said, I brought up the exact same thing, but I gave him an analogy. I said, what if you have a quarterback on this? What if you have Garrett Schrader on the team right now, and you have Carlos Del Rio Wilson, who transferred in from Florida, and a car company here in Syracuse, let's say a Burdick dealership, says to Garrett Schrader, we're going to give you $100,000, and you're going to be the face. And every commercial that they have during a Syracuse game is Garrett Schrader trying to sell Burdick cars. Then, 5 games into the season, he gets subbed out for Carlos Del Rio Wilson, and then the car dealership says, well, we don't want to back the backup. We don't want to give money to the guy. Every time we go to commercial, it's a laughing stock because here's Schrader when Carlos Del Rio Wilson's out there, and you got those 2 quarterbacks fighting in the locker room. And I was talking to Cody Roscoe. He said, I never thought about that. I said, go one step further. What if you're one of the 5 receivers that goes up to Schrader, and every single receiver in their NIL deal has a contract that states every catch you get an extra $1,000. It's the end of the game. He's got to throw a touchdown pass, and all 5 of those guys are going, you better give me the ball because that's my money. And then some of them got side deals saying, if you pass me the ball, I'll give you 10% of the money that I'm going to make. Now what do you do in the locker room, and who do you throw to?
It's an NFL incentive program. I mean, that's what it is. So I don't think it's good for the game. I think it will tear apart teams more than bring them together.
Well, and to really bring it home for an offensive lineman, Sean Tucker on the team right now, obviously the guy that everybody's watching, Sean is allowed to use Syracuse colors, the Syracuse Block S, and all of that copyright stuff. Aaron Service, who blocked for him and was grandpa on the line, spent 6 years here. Aaron Service was told when he wanted to make T-shirts with his name on it, Syracuse University, you cannot use not only our orange and blue, you can't use any color orange, any color blue, so as to be connected with us and misconstrued. You can't use our logo. So Syracuse tells Aaron Service, you can't have a clothing line with our colors and with our S or any orange or any blue. And then within months, Sean Tucker has the Block S, the logo, the colors, and everything. And so in the locker room, Aaron's leaving, and Sean's obviously staying there. But Syracuse University told 2 players on their team, Aaron, you can't do it because it's against our policy. And then they gave it to Sean without any issue.
Offensive linemen always get screwed. What more could you say?
Yeah. And I'm hoping big things for Aaron Service from Ashwaubenon, Wisconsin, trying to make this hay. He did work a couple times with Green Bay Packers. We're hopeful with him. With that being said, though, this weekend coming in at the Dome, being a part of this, it's the JMA Wireless Dome. So it's got its first new name in 42 years.
That's going to take some getting used to.
Yeah, JMA Wireless. Carrier comes off a lot easier. I think people will probably just end up calling it the JMA Dome or something like that, or the Wireless Dome.
Honestly, I've always just called it the Dome.
Yeah, which is an easy way to do it. See, Syracuse tried to get away with it this past year, calling it the Dome, trying to push the Carrier thing out of it. But they had given Carrier a lifetime sponsorship. I don't know how they weaseled out of that one, but JMA is in. Then we're going to have new seats in the Dome, less seats, but new seats. better internet and more upgrades to even more of what they're doing with the video and audio side of things. You haven't been in the Dome in a long time. It's got a rail on the outside, looks like a roller coaster. It's got a nice little opening, and it's got a central video and audio experience that is really hard to not stare at. So you're coming into the Dome in a time, and they can manipulate the lights. They can make darkness light, lightness dark, and they can change the lights and the colors and do a lot of cool things. And the train sound that they've carried on with the Express in honor of Ernie Davis. So you're definitely coming into a Dome that feels different, looks different, and I think has arguably the best experience it's had video and audio-wise.
I can't wait to see it. I mean, I like the old Dome. I mean, trust me, I mean, that was 30 years ago, but, you know, it was a funny story is when I was drafted by the Oilers, one of our receiver coaches was a gentleman by the name of Charlie Baggett. And he was Roger and our senior year, we played Michigan State. And Charlie Baggett was on Ron Perlis' staff at Michigan State. And we ended up, we were all over them. And they came back and we ended up playing to, I think it was a 14-14 tie. And Charlie Baggett told me when we were down in Houston with the Oilers, as they walked off the field, Ron Perlis turned to Charlie and he said, because Ron Perlis was the athletic director on top of the head football coach, he said, Charlie, if I ever schedule another game in this damn Dome, knock me out.
Yeah.
I mean, back in the day, and I was telling the kids, it's different. I was telling them it's different. I haven't seen it, but people hated the Dome. I mean, my daughter goes to Texas A&M where it was 100 and whatever, the biggest football stadium, and I said, I guarantee you, 50,000, a loaded 50,000 capacity Carrier Dome, where there's a roof on it. It's a dome stadium that is built straight up and not sloped back.
Yeah.
And even the upper decks are sitting right on the field. I don't think the field has changed, but I remember back in the day when we were sitting on the bench, we only had maybe 2 or 3 yards until the stands.
Yeah.
It was the loudest 50,000 people I've ever heard in the 4 and 5 years I was here. I mean, it was crazy. Plus, on top of that, back then it was the only on-campus facility that served alcohol. I mean, that's, you know, the Dome foams. That's where it all came from.
Yeah, you know, and when we look at in the ACC, there's some places that don't. Syracuse still does with certain rules now and whatnot. I'll never forget. So my dad brought me to the Dome as a kid, brought me my whole life. And then when I went to school at Marywood University in Scranton, Pennsylvania, a couple hours south, I came back, and it was during Greg Robinson's time. We got season tickets. We came to the game, and I remember going to the games before that with my dad. There was a Syracuse-Pittsburgh game, and he's sitting right next to me, talking to me, and I couldn't hear my father. It was so loud in the Dome that it honestly felt like you put earmuffs on and people would just be cheering. It didn't matter if it's timeout, what it was. It was so loud for me growing up in the Dome, and I missed that, where I genuinely could see my dad's mouth moving and I could not hear. I'm like, what? And he'd be bending, and I'm like, what are you talking about? And I had to ask him to say it 5 different times. It felt like somebody had put like Q-tips in your ears. I missed the Dome those days when it was so loud you couldn't even hear yourself think. That was an experience.
I tell you what, the 2 loudest times I've heard the Dome, and you go back to 2 plays during the undefeated season. When Rob Moore caught the opening touchdown on the first play of the game from Donnie McPherson against Penn State, the place was, trust me, they talk about all these places registering on the Richter scale and decibels and stuff like that. That play and the 2-point conversion against West Virginia in the far corner,
yeah,
loudest I've ever heard any stadium, period. College, NFL, whatever. Those 2 plays, to me, exemplify our era and Syracuse football.
And you bring up that undefeated season. Only 2 times Syracuse has ever gone undefeated. national championship in '59 with Ernie Davis, and in 1987. And one of my closest friends and your teammate, Rob Drummond, and everything. And he talked to me about that West Virginia game. He said, back in the day, we played to win. He said, we didn't play to tie. We didn't play to force any extra time. We played to win every game. And in that West Virginia game, that was put up or shut up. If that didn't go, game was over in the hands of West Virginia, a longtime rival. And you got to win like that. It said what Coach Mack was about. It said what your team was about. It said what the fight was about. It said what rivalry was about. And I got to tell you, I miss those days where people play to win.
Well, and then we go to a bowl game and we face a team that doesn't play to win.
Yeah.
So, Pat Dye had no room to talk, saying, well, you guys did it 3 weeks ago. Well, never mind, I almost said it.
It's all right, we're on the internet.
We played to win, right? I mean, and here's the thing. That wasn't, I watched the interviews, and in fact, when we found out we were coming up here, I went back and I found on Netflix or YouTube the video of that undefeated season. So I watched the whole thing, and I saw a clip of Pat Dye saying, my kids played just as hard as their kids, and they didn't deserve to lose. Well, that sounds like he made the decision. The deciding factor of the West Virginia game is Mack called timeout. After Pat Kelly caught the touchdown, Mack called timeout. Gathered us all over and basically said, do we kick the field goal and preserve our undefeated season, or do we go for the 2? Nobody on that sideline said kick the field goal and preserve the undefeated season with a tie. We would have probably killed Mack if he would have done what Pat Dye did to us in the Sugar Bowl.
Yeah.
That was, you could ask Rob. That no one on that sideline wanted to kick the extra point. We all wanted the 2.
And it was back in the day when you could tie in a bowl game, and Rob's talked to me about that a lot, and he said, we were beating Auburn up and down that field, no matter what it took, taking it to an SEC team. He said they played that game and ended that game to try and save face, and because you were beating them the whole time, and back when you could tie, Auburn just wanted to get out of it without saying that they lost to Syracuse.
Well, they were the number one, they were the SEC champions. Pat Dye had to save face, and he couldn't lose to some little piddly-ass independent team from the Northeast. That the mighty SEC, that was unfathomable. Like I said, that was before Alabama was what Alabama is today. That's what I said. And then the next year we go down to the Hall of Fame Bowl and we play LSU, and we beat them 23-10. And then the year after that, we play one of the last games in Atlanta Fulton County Stadium, which is the old Peach Bowl, and we played Georgia. So 3 years we played the number one team, the number 2 team, and the number 3 team in the SEC, and went 2-0-1 as a small-ass independent from the Northeast.
So fast forward, and I'm sad to do this to Syracuse fans, but Dino Babers era, 4-8, 4-8, 10-3 with Schaefer's guys, 5-7, 1-10, 5-7. It's year number 7 for Dino. How does John Flannery and the 1987 undefeated team look at what's happening right now?
That's a loaded question. It's a very loaded question.
I was born and raised here, and I'm honest. I said I want them to go 12-0, and I think they're going to go 5-7 this year. That's my broadcaster in me, but the fan in me wants 12-0.
But here's the thing: we were coming off on the '87 team. We weren't even in a bowl game.
Yeah,
and we were nobodies. And we won the first one, and we won the second one. Next thing you know, we're going into week 5, week 6, playing the undefeated national champions in Penn State. I hope they do well, but there's some simplicity and some truth in what Mack and Pasqualoni preached. One game at a time, right?
Yeah.
One down, one to go.
Yeah.
That was kind of our mantra, and you can't start looking ahead at. Right now, Dino Babers and his team should be it's Louisville and Louisville only. Anyone could, who knows what anyone could do in college football. Like I said, you got Notre Dame and Ohio State playing each other. One team's going to win, one team's going to lose. It's how you respond in week 2, and it's a mindset, and that was the difference between our teams. We lost one. If we lost one, that was a fluke. We had a bad day, and we came back and we worked twice as hard, and we were going to make sure that never happened again. So, but it's a mindset that has to be shared amongst the players, the coaches, the staff, everybody. It's not something that the coaches preach and the kids don't believe, or the kids preach and the coaches don't believe. Different time, different place. I'd like to see them win them all, but you got to win the first one, and then let's start talking about what's going to happen the rest of the season. From what I hear, the schedule sets up for them nicely. They take care of tomorrow or Saturday, and then they got UConn, and you say Wagner?
Well, they have UConn, then Purdue, then Wagner.
Okay. So they got 2 tough games in the first 4 on paper. Problem is, we don't play games on paper. They got to play all 4 on the field. But all 4 of those are winnable games as far as I'm concerned. And the mindset back when we played is we didn't even consider a loss. We get the 1-0 and then get the 2-0, and like we said, the mantra was 1 down, 1 to go. And you can't start looking ahead. You can't start looking back. You can't start complaining about the past. You just got to take them one at a time.
What would you say to the fan base that's been frustrated and leaves the game in the third quarter, sometimes doesn't go at all? We talk about how loud it was for you, how loud it was for me growing up. What do you say to a fan base that sometimes feels like they need the paddles and to be shocked back to life? How do we shock them back?
I wish I had that answer. If I had that answer, I wouldn't be sitting here with you. I'd be coaching or doing something. But, everyone loves a winner. And sometimes it's not just the wins and the losses and the W's, but the fans of the Northeast are smart. They can see when the heart and desire are there. They can tell when a team is still laying everything on the line, and they can see when the team is kind of shutting it down or calling it quits. So you got to go out there and you got to play 4 quarters, and you got to bust your ass, and you got to play to win. Even if you're getting beat, you still got to play to win.
You brought up Coach Mack and Coach P. I've gotten to meet them both, and Coach Mack, may he rest in peace. Getting to meet Coach Mack, because he would come and he would just sit in the press box, and he was sitting in his wheelchair one day and he was smiling. I was like, I don't know if I'm ever going to get a chance to do this again, and I don't know why I haven't done it yet. So I walked up to him, I said hello, very sweet guy. And then with Coach P, Coach Paul Pasqualoni, I met him when he was coaching UConn, and it was when Syracuse was still in the Big East, and we were in Rhode Island. We were in Newport, Rhode Island at the Hotel Viking, which looked like a place that would be savagely haunted by all stretches of the imagination. And I went up to Coach Pasqualoni, and I was like, can we do the interview? And he was like, yeah, we were doing it while we walked. And I said, I'm going to talk to you about UConn. But I said, I was a kid when you were coaching at Syracuse, so I'm going to have to ask you about Syracuse because I never got the chance to. I describe Coach Paul Pasqualoni, from my point of view, as a guy who, as soon as he looks at you, you want to apologize for something you didn't do wrong yet, but you feel like he already knows you did wrong. He had that, look through your soul coach where it's like, I'm sorry, I don't know what I did, but whatever I did, I'll just start running right now. He had that way about him. And, we talked a little bit about Coach Mack. I love to talk about, Mack and Coach P and just how you view those two guys, because Coach P, no matter how many times he tries to retire, somebody pulls him back in. And you talk about somebody, he got fired from Syracuse, and he's had a million jobs in the NFL and in college. He can't retire because everybody wants his expertise. So I'd love to get your thoughts on a little bit more Coach Mack, but to jump into Coach P as well.
Coach P's like, what was that? Was it The Godfather? Every time I try to get out, they pull me back in, right? So, you know, Coach P was Rogers' linebacker coach, and then the defensive coordinator, and then went on to be the head coach, and then, you know, I mean, he's even the beauty about him is he's even sought after by NFL teams.
Yeah.
I mean, I think. You know, he was with the Cowboys,
Houston Texans,
the
Miami
Texans.
Dolphins.
Yeah, I mean, he just shows up, right? He's part of that Connecticut mafia, right? But he's not easy, and he's hard on his players.
Yeah.
But he's hard on you because he wants the best out of you.
Yeah.
And he's always been that way. You know, his best friend and my old offensive line coach who just passed, God rest his soul, George DeLeon, was the same way. You know, George DeLeon is 5'6", 148 pounds,
Yeah.
coaching 300-pound monsters, and we were all scared shitless of him, right? I mean,
I was told that if he ever smiled in practice, everyone was terrified of why he was smiling.
he one time he got too close to one-on-one pass rush drills, and he got rolled up. So you had a 300-pound offensive lineman, a 300-pound defensive lineman, and he got rolled up.
Yeah.
He got caught in the middle, and I forget, he tore ligaments or broke his ankle. He was out at the next practice. That was a morning session. In the afternoon session, he would not miss. He was out there with a golf cart,
Yeah.
with an air cast on, driving in and out of the drills, and coaching like nothing ever happened. And that's you know, George and Coach Pasqualoni were the same way. They were going to coach you the same way. They were the same mean cusses, whether you were winning or losing, whether you were their best player or their worst player. They were going to coach you the same way all the time. They were consistent, and anyone that they didn't play favorites, and they would hammer you the same way, regardless of who you were.
You mentioned Coach DeLeon, Coach P, Coach Mack. You guys were spoiled. Randy Etzel.
Randy Etzel recruited me. He's from Pennsylvania.
Steve Adazio and his connection to the team as well. Steve did a nice kind of, in a very small world of sports, hired Coach. He hired Coach P to be one of his assistants on his staff at Boston College, and to see that flip, and they worked a couple years together, that was really special. If the job at Syracuse were to open at some point soon, do you think that we need another Northeast person or someone who gets the Northeast?
I'm a firm believer if it isn't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
And Syracuse's heydays under Mack and under Coach Pasqualoni were Northeast coaches with Northeast mentality, with Northeast kids. And we won a lot of football games. And we went up against the mighty SEC. We went up against the Pac-10, and we beat them all, okay? I just don't see, even with the new dome and this, that, and the other thing, we didn't get a lot of kids from Florida. They get off the plane here, and there's a foot of snow on the ground. They don't want to come here. So I think we can get back to the basics. And again, a lot of things are changing. Transfer portals, name, image, likeness. But there's a lot of good football players up here in the Northeast. And you know what? Back in the day, we didn't have 5-star, 4-star, 3. We didn't have all that crap. We didn't have all that. These guys went out and they found players. And they found the players by going out to the high schools. I mean, we would practice on Thursday night. We'd have our last hard practice, and all the assistant coaches, Friday Friday practice, the walk-through practice before the game was run by Mac, the special teams coach, the offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator. All the other coaches left Thursday night, and they were driving to Pennsylvania, to New Jersey, to Rhode Island, to Connecticut, and they were going to visit their high school coaches and find out who are these hard-nosed kids that live in the Northeast. And none of us were superstars when we got here, but they made us superstars. They made us a coherent team. That's why we went to bowl games. That's why we competed in bowl games. That's why we competed, and we played the USCs. We played the Miamis. We played the Ohio States. We played the SEC. We played the Pac-10. We played the Clemsons. This was after we left, but Coach Pasqualoni beat Clemson. He beat Georgia Tech. All with Northeast kids.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with the kids with in the Northeast.
And I was told by coaches around the country that any coach with any type of intelligence when it comes to football or with anything is you coach a 5-hour or you recruit a 5-hour radius. You go from your backyard 5 hours out to central New York, upstate New York, the state of New York, like you said, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, that whole area. And if people don't believe that it works, Steve Adazio, in the same amount of time that Syracuse was in the ACC and Boston College had Steve Adazio, he went to a bowl game 8 to 9 years, and Syracuse went to a couple. And he was doing it with Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, a couple guys from Florida, one guy from California, maybe one guy from Texas. That roster was 80% Massachusetts and Northeast, at least.
Our undefeated team, outside of, help me out here, Roger. Marcus Paul was from Florida. Jeff Mangrum, I believe, was from Georgia. Everyone else was from the Northeast. Went 11-0-1. Something was working.
Yeah, and a team that went 11-0-1 and 10-2 in back-to-back years, you knew what it was like to win, and you did it with the Northeast. And it frustrates me, and that's why I created the hashtag support CNY and recruit New York and all that, because the kids don't get it here. I mean, Tyler Rouse from Beeville went to Boston College. You got a bunch of guys from my alma mater, Christian Brothers Academy. Stevie Scott went to Indiana. Servassier Dennis is a captain right now who just won an ACC championship and went to a New Year's Six Bowl in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. He's at Pittsburgh. And then you got a bunch of other guys that come from the Nottinghams and different areas here. You got Aquinas Institute in Rochester. The school that recruits Pennsylvania, or the school that recruits New York the best right now is Buffalo. In the state of New York, it's Buffalo. But to be really honest about it, the people that recruit New York the best, and that's upstate New York, that's downstate, it's everything. It's the Big Ten, and Nick Saban's come up here and he grabbed a running back in Derek Gore, who's in the NFL right now. I mean, to say there's no talent here, if I just talked about running backs, it's ridiculous, but Rob tells me all the time, he goes down the list of all you guys, and he talks about here, Tim Green, Scott Schwade's in the area. You know, Donovan McNabb wasn't that far away. Don McPherson wasn't that far away. You look at Jay Bromley, who was a third-round pick in recent years, and he had no stars and no offers, and he was there in New York City, who got recruited by Syracuse in the last second. So there's nobody in New York, there's nobody in the Northeast. I fight it all the time. I got people on social media that fight me back, and I give them factual evidence of a long list of players, and they just give you a whole lot of nothing.
So I'll just go back to kind of prove the point. I'll go back to my recruiting class in the offensive line, okay? So basically, we came in, so Blake Bednar's, Blake did not redshirt, okay? So, but he was part of our recruiting class, okay? So in our redshirt freshman year, you had, me and Turnell Sims were 4-year starters.
Shout out to Turnell. He called me an old man recently, which is ridiculous.
But you went, so out of our recruiting class, which was all upstate New York, Ohio, and Pennsylvania, you had Blake Bednarz, myself, Turnell Sims, 4-year starter, Gary McCummings, 3-year starter, Mike Bernard from up here in Watertown, 3-year starter. There's 5 solid offensive linemen that started at Syracuse almost their entire career, all out of the same recruiting class. Yeah. And, I just go with the offensive lineman because that's what I know best. But, and you would think of the offensive lineman, the blue-collar, hard-working, as Mac would say, shot in the beer type guys. Why would you not want them from the Northeast?
But I say, up here you're grizzled, right? You're not practicing when it's 90 degrees, 80 degrees outside. You're in the snow. If I'm looking for linemen, I'm looking up north because you've been through the elements, you've been through all of that, and there's some really great guys that have come through here and continue to come through here and work hard for it. And I will do everything in my power to get them, like Rob Drummond said. He's like, they don't have to go to Syracuse and go wherever they want to go. Syracuse doesn't really recruit them. But we say all the time, we will do everything that we can to get them out there, to get a spotlight on them so that they have an opportunity to live out their dreams. The unfortunate thing, though, is because Syracuse doesn't recruit them, in our community we have Rutgers hats, Wisconsin hats, Michigan State hats, Alabama hats, FSU hats, and Indiana, and it's hard to see that, but it's not something that was done on accident. The parents support the kids where the kids get the opportunities. And Gabe Horan, who is right up here in Beeville, he had a bunch of Big Ten offers and Syracuse, and the Big Ten really wanted him, and Coach Sanfilippo wanted him to wait. He said, if you wait a little bit longer, he's like, I think he might get the majority of the Big Ten on him. And so he wanted him to give it a little bit more time to see what he could get out of it. But when the Big Ten and teams in the SEC and, the Pittsburghs with Pat Narduzzi, when they're coming after you, it says something. And when Greg Schiano is back there at Rutgers and he's looking here, you should never get beat in your own backyard. And I've never forgotten, I don't know who said that to me, but I've never forgotten the statement, you should never get beat in your own backyard. And when they said to me, Nick Saban got on a plane in Alabama and he flew up here and he looked at a kid and he took that kid that got no love up here, I'm like, if Nick Saban's coming upstate New York, you got a problem if you're not recruiting that kid.
Who?
Pittsburgh.
Yeah. What did the roster look like?
The roster was, guys from here, guys from Pittsburgh, and they get a few guys from different places. But, Pitt is going after that 5-hour radius, and Pat Narduzzi is coming to Central New York because he goes to Christian Brothers Academy.
So it works. It still works today.
It works with BC. It works with the Big Ten. It works with Pittsburgh. It works with Penn. You think about it like this. Penn State will recruit kids that Syracuse will recruit. And even with everything that happened with Sandusky, that I thought it would dip a little bit, people loved James Franklin, and they loved Penn State. And they were willing to go to Penn State amidst the controversy, amidst not going to bowl games. They would still rather go to Penn State.
We still don't talk about the P word.
I know. Well, it'll make you happy that Tony Dorsett came on the show here. Al Romano called him during our broadcast on this stage, and I asked him about Penn State, and his verbiage, thank God I'm on the internet, but he called them something, and then I gave him a chance to maybe say it again, not say it again, and he referred to them as the Penn State Pussies. Very proudly, without any issue, Tony Dorsett, that's what he calls them. He's very comfortable with it, and he was comfortable enough to say it multiple times. He had nothing good to say about Penn State.
Wow. In Penn State, where I grew up, you either were a Penn State fan or a Notre Dame fan.
Yeah.
And
understood.
Like I said, I guess I'm kind of like my youngest. I marched to the beat of my own drum. I said, I want to go play for the teams that's going to beat both of them sons of bitches.
Yeah. And I still wish, back in the day, I wish the Big East had taken in Penn State. And if they had gotten Penn State and Notre Dame, we might have not seen any of this realignment. If the Big East had Syracuse, Penn State, and Notre Dame. And Pittsburgh.
Hey, but I got out happy. I could still save face back home in Pennsylvania. I was 2-2 against Penn State.
Yeah, well, that's what it comes down to.
Exactly.
To get there. You mentioned, Roger, your teammate and your roommate in college. He's off camera here right now, but I wanna show him some love here and just shout him out a little bit and why he's so important to you. And and why it means the world to you that he came out tonight to see you.
Well, I mean, and well, he has to go as a family obligation, right, Raj, we were recruited together.
Yeah.
So just like Turnell and Blake and all those, so Raj and Rob Thompson are one of the captains with me. We ended up. It was funny because we were together, but we didn't room together.
Yeah.
And then we both had different sets of roommates, and then Rob and Raj's roommate left before our senior year, and my roommate left before our senior year, and we said, hey, let's room together.
Yeah.
So and it just clicked, and hell, both Rob and Raj are in my wedding. So they both flew down to Texas.
Yeah.
We were getting ready to set up a golfing weekend, and then COVID hit. So I was going to have them. So I'm one up now because now I'm up here, which means the next time now they're going to have to come down to Texas. I told them,
Yeah.
you just pay for your plane flights down. I said, if I can get these damn kids out of the house, I got plenty of bedrooms. I'll cook for them, and we'll go play golf.
Well, I can tell it to you like this. I don't think you're going to have any issue with Rob and Roger coming down if you do it between December to March.
Yeah.
There won't be any issue whatsoever.
No.
So-
But, no, so it means the world to me that Rob showed up today and Rod showed up today. Rob's coming in tomorrow. Like I said, I don't get back, and I probably haven't seen him. Well, saw him at my wedding, and then saw him for a reunion weekend the last time I was here 27 years ago.
So as a final note before we jump into rapid fire, where you get to put me on the hot seat because I've asked you more than enough hot seat type questions, the final piece here, go back to that Super Bowl 1999 with the Rams, greatest show on turf, and you had Roland Williams on the team, who was also a Syracuse alum at tight end. I'd love to go back to that Rams time. We talked about it a little bit on the show when you were on a few months back, but just what sticks out to you? Not many people can say Super Bowl ring, and you get to say, and you all get to say you're part of a team that's now no longer in St. Louis.
You know, it was pure coincidence.
Yeah.
I mean, it was right place at the right time. You know what everyone forgets about that team is Kurt Warner was the third-team quarterback.
Yeah.
Okay. Trent Green was the quarterback that was signed in the offseason to take the promise, and quite honestly, and Dick Vermeil traded with his buddy Jim Mora for Marshall Faulk, and then we already had Isaac Bruce and Torrey Holt and whatnot.
Yeah.
But you want to talk about right place, right time, and just the I mean, and then we brought Mike Martz in as our offensive coordinator, was a lot like Coach DeLeon. He was an evil offensive genius, right? And right place, right time. And again, team was a lot like our 87 team. We the year before, I think we went 4-12 and took them one at a time and just kept winning, and one down, one to go, and this, that, and the other thing. And next thing you know, we're playing a rematch against the Titans in the Super Bowl.
You know, they did a movie about Kurt Warner. When are they going to do a movie about the offensive line?
Yeah, that ain't going to happen. That ain't going to. You know what? We're just going to have to claim Michael Orr and just be done with it.
Yeah. So
or what was it? Bullsworth, the All-American walk-on from Arkansas.
Yeah, maybe.
Which was a damn good movie.
So yeah, you gotta claim The Blind Side or one of those. With that being said, John Flannery here, Syracuse and NFL alum, here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. We're here every single month on site, on location at Pizza Man Pub, 50 Oswego Street in Baldwinsville, New York, with your Baldwinsville Bees, as well as other specials, including John Flannery. And Wake Up Call is live for you every Monday through Friday in our normal time, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time on YouTube.com, Facebook.com, and MixLR.com, all /WakeUpCallDT. You've been great about answering my questions. We're going to play rapid fire, but you get 3 that you get to ask me. They could be about literally anything, and I have to answer them.
Did you graduate from Syracuse?
I did not. I went to Marywood University in Scranton, Pennsylvania.
Did you even play football?
I played flag football and pickup. I didn't want to get tackled. I did not want to get tackled. I'm not going to lie. I played basketball my whole life. I wanted nothing to do. They wanted me to play running back in high school. They're like, you're scrappy and you're good at moving, and I could not picture a 300-pound person falling on top of me. So my mom also told me she'd break every bone in my body before I played, so I played basketball from 7 years old on.
I still got one left?
You got one
I got
left,
one
yeah.
left. Jeez.
If I did play, I'd want to play running back, though.
So what makes you do what you do? I mean, you found me on Facebook.
Yep.
And then we did a show. We developed a kinship, and I told you I was coming up here. So, what makes you what makes you so passionate about Syracuse and Syracuse football?
Well, I mean, being born and raised here, my grandparents being here, my parents being here, and I mean, it's a blue collar town. I believe that these people fight for what they have, and I love the people. I love the community, and I love what we stand for. I mean, I lived in Florida. I've lived in Pennsylvania. I came back here to build my company, and people say, why? And I said, if I'm going to put my name on the door, I want to put it on the door of the community that I started in, with the people that I started with. And Macklemore has a lyric that I always keep with me about Syracuse, and it says, I have my city right behind me. If I fall, they got me. And I love being able to connect with people here. There's just something about, if it's, wherever you are in central and upstate New York, if you help somebody here and just what it means to you and the generations, and they come back and talk to you, and when they have kids, they talk to you. And I don't think anybody deserves to not have their story told. I love telling stories. I love bringing people together. And I always say in the media, I'm a 0.1%er. And that's 0.1% of the media tells you the truth and cares about you. The other 99.9% are just looking to jump on somebody's back and get something off of it. So I think being a genuine person, a caring person, a loving person that's got God above everything, and believes in bringing people together and positivity and doing things the right way the first time and every time. I do what I do because I love it, and I do what I do because if I didn't do it, I mean, how do you affect the world where the players you grew up hearing about and watching are now your friends, and now they tell you when they're coming into town? I mean, I call my mom and dad, and I'm like, John Flannery told me when he was coming in, and I'm going to do a show with him. I'm like, the fact that he reached out to me was like, I want you to know I'm here. And to have that in my life, those are the things you can't pay for. When somebody that you respect, that played on a team that you've always loved, gets in touch with you to tell you they're coming where you don't have to chase them down. So to me, it was a no-brainer to have you, and I wouldn't have accepted no, honestly.
There you go. Enough said. Hit it with a mic drop.
There we go. So we're gonna drop. We actually do that.
But hold on a second. Who the hell's Macklemore?
Who Macklemore is? You gotta listen. He's good. He's good.
Sure. Will my kids know?
Yeah, they know. So, yeah. So with that being said, Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, John Flannery, Super Bowl champion, Syracuse alum, myself, Dan Tortora. And it's funny that you said what you said, and that's why I don't believe in coincidences, only God incidences. On this stage, that's what we do. So collectively, together, John, let's drop the mic in 3, 2, 1.